Hello. So you're thinking of applying for RACP procedural skills specialties. These include specialties like neurology, cardiology, respiratory medicine, sleep medicine, gastroenterology, nephrology, rheumatology, nuclear medicine. So I'm going to take you through two main parts of the application process. First, the eligibility, what makes you eligible to apply for the specialist pathway in these procedural skill specialties, and number two, steps of the application process. So without further ado, step one, you need to make sure that you have got the eligibility to apply for these specialties. Your entrance into the training must be through a competitive entrance program or exam, which means that you should have either completed FCPS Part 1 if you're coming from Pakistan, or NEET PG or postgraduate entrance exam if you're coming from India. You have completed the training and exams in the country of origin, plus you're on specialist register in that same country, which means that you have completed either FCPS in cardiology, neurology, or gastroenterology, or any of the specialties, or MD training program in all of these specialties. And then after the completion of your training, you have passed the exams. And after the passing of exams, you are on specialist register in your home country. Now, let's talk about the logbook, which is the most important requirement for these specialties. Now, the logbook needs to cover the log of procedures during your training, during your fellow years, if you've done any, plus the consultant years. Now, most of the candidates say that we have already submitted the logbook to the college and we don't have a copy of that. But I always say that we will provide you with a template, and that template would cover your training years, your fellow years, and your consultant years. Fill them in and then get them signed from your department head or from the most senior doctor in your department. Let's talk about quickly training requirements. This is a very crucial point where I get lots of questions that I've done 3 years of training in cardiology. I've done 3 years of training in gastroenterology. How does that work out? So the candidates who are coming from Pakistan, who are applying for cardiology, gastroenterology, nephrology, they would have completed 2 years of basic physician's training, which means that they would have done 2 years of rotating specialties like neurology, gastroenterology, cardiology, nephrology. That's fine. And then they would have completed the intermediate medical module. That's excellent. Then they would have completed further 3 years of advanced training in cardiology, gastroenterology, nephrology, or any of the other specialties that they're applying for, followed by completion of certificate of training in their home country, that is in Pakistan. The people who are coming from MD would have done M3 MD, which is 3 years in cardiology, and 3 years in gastroenterology and 3 years in respiratory medicine, neurology, or their training program is limited to 3 years only. For all doctors coming from India, they must ensure that they have done senior residence year for at least 2 years duration to make the program at least 5 years in total duration. Now, this is very important that you have done out of those 5 years, 2 years as a mixed specialty training, and then 3 years more dedicated towards your specialty of choice, which, as I said, could be cardiology, neurology, respiratory medicine, and so forth. Now, let's go through quickly the steps of application. So the first step is that you need to do the EPIC and AMC verification of primary medical qualification and specialist qualification. You will be provided both numbers, and those both numbers will need to be put on the form. Also, you need to have completed taking the English test, which could be OET, PTE, or academic IELTS. There also needs to be completion of CPD requirement, which means courses, conferences, and workshop, and clinical governance meeting like quality improvement meeting, morbidity and mortality meeting, or any clinical risk assessment meeting. You can include that in a template. We can provide you with a template and transcript, and you can get it signed from your department head. Now let's go through the basic details of the application form. This is the application form. I'll jump onto the selection of the specialty page directly. These are your personal details. This is the area of medical practice in which assessment is sought. You indicate adult medicine, and then you include, for example, cardiology, or you can include gastroenterology, or you can include, immunology and allergy, or respiratory medicine, or sleep medicine, or rheumatology, nephrology, neurology. These are all procedural specialties. As you can see, there is an asterisk next to that specialty, which means that it is a logbook requiring specialty. Limited scope of practice means that if you're applying for subspecialty within that specialty, for a cardiology, it could be, for example, electrophysiology, or it could be some other subspecialty of gastroenterology that you might be only limited to hepatology. or liver transplant medicine. But I'm not going to go through the detail of that subspecialty and limited scope of practice. This section talks about if you've submitted any previous application. If you had, then you need to indicate so. Practice intention, if you've gotten job offer, you can indicate. Primary source verification numbers of EPIC and AMC, you can indicate here. Primary medical qualifications, you can indicate here. Specialist qualification, you can indicate here. And if you've got any additional exams and diploma, you can indicate here. Then you start off with your examination in logbook. If you've done any licensing examination, you can indicate here. And if you've done the specialist, and yes, you would have completed the specialist examination, this is the section for the written examination details that you can include in here. And this is the area where the clinical examination need to be provided in good detail for your specialist qualification. Now, logbook requirement, you indicate yes, and then you need to attach that logbook. Internship section is here, and you need to indicate the dates, hospital, position, title, location, and registration authority, and rotations that you've completed, and plus inpatient, outpatient, and on-call responsibilities, and mini clinical examination, learning need analysis, and direct observation of procedural skills, and on any of the assessment that you've done, you can indicate here. A specialist training of 5 years, which can be included here, starting from when to when, and which hospital, what was the position title, what were the locations, and what rotations, along with the inpatient, outpatient, and on-call responsibilities completed, and what were the forms of assessment can be indicated here in this section. You can keep on doing it for every year, or you can stack up the years together. It is entirely up to your own choice. Next section is about your employment as a consultant physician, and you can indicate that here. And same goes here in terms of start date and end date, institution or hospital, position title, and then clinical responsibility of a consultant, what procedures that you perform as a consultant, and what management skills you got. That includes both clinical and non-clinical management skills and any supervision and teaching roles. So you can also briefly indicate here. If you got multiple consultant responsibilities working part-time, you can also include it here. And then finally, you need to integrate your experience in teaching, research, professional activities, which can be included in here section about teaching, audit, and published research paper. CPD activities could be included in here. And this is just a self-review in which you indicate that why do you think that you need to apply for a specialist pathway, what makes you ineligible, and what would you be professional learning points from the specialist pathway. You need to indicate references and sign the declaration, and then you need to also fill in this part of the application form, which is an interview availability form in which you indicate your name, specialties that you're applying for, email address, mobile phone number, and location from where you'd be connecting via the teleconferences. So you can indicate online and then sign and declare and submit the form. I hope it makes it easy. Now, once you fill in the RACP form, please review. You need to then pay the fee and email the completed form to the RACP email address, which is provided on the website. The RACP will then contact you within 2 to 3 weeks with an interview date, and then you will have the interview. The final outcome or result of the application will be given as partial, substantial, or non-comparable. The good thing with all of these outcomes, there's no further exam to be taken here in Australia. Now, if you need any assistance in terms of all of these processes, in terms of application form and an interview, then you can book in through our website now, and we will be happy to take you through the entire process, which includes application form, filling assistance, interview preparation, and even job search after the successful comparability outcome. Thank you very much.